Name and paper first, please.
Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah. I know, Michael.
You had a fairly inexperienced secondary. It was rocky at times. What did you learn from that? How are you going to transition those lessons into this year?
Well, you got to do a lot of teamwork, but it all goes back to basics and fundamentals. The one difference 2 years ago and this year is that 2 years ago it was a new scheme. And at least here that we have experience with the scheme, which I believe will be a difference maker. We've got some real good, eager young guys. 2 years ago, I can remember I sat here and I said that late at night the door would open and Mark Verica would be watching film. And he threw for a lot of balls, and he did a terrific job, I thought, for us. And this year, I can tell you that you sit in your office, and as you're leaving, Trey Nicholson, Brandon Phelps, Daquan Hosky, Anthony Harris, all those young characters came in and were watching film. And when you get to know them, you get to recruit them a little bit. You know what you say, and I don't know if it's a correct analogy, but you'd walk down a dark alley with those guys any day. And there's a couple of guys in here that don't like me to say, you get down on your hands and knees and pray to bring them home, that you meet the family, that your daughter brings them to meet the family someday, or you'd be proud to call them your sons, but it's exactly the truth. Great, high-quality, terrific guys. And, to name, without naming, like Rio Walker and Mason Thomas and Darius Lee, it's not fair. But so what I'm just saying is that right now we've got a lot of real good, young, eager players that want to succeed, that have watched guys in front of them succeed. So that's got to be a difference. And just work as hard as we can with them. But it all goes back to basic fundamentals. And as long as they have that, then we'll get them in the right spot.
Coach Chris from the Saber.com, how much can experienced linebackers help an inexperienced secondary, or is there not a whole lot of correlation there?
Well, let me just tell you this, is that outside run game and pass game, everybody always says secondary, secondary, secondary. But I'll tell you what, if you watch when Chase Minifield intercepted that ball against Duke and then ran it in for a touchdown, the reason why we intercepted that ball is the quarterback did not have time. Cam Johnson had hit him just as he was throwing the ball. It didn't alter the throw, but it altered the read. So when you talk about the secondary, honestly, in pass, we're not being fair, because throwing the ball, outside run plays, it's a unit responsibility and a unit accountability. Pass rush. And then, as you just mentioned correctly, linebacker pass drops and/or linebacker rushes if we're pressuring. And so that if somebody has all day to throw the football, I don't care how experienced you are back there, they're going to complete that ball. And today, with the evolution, somebody was asking me the other day about big plays. We gave up a ton of big plays in 2010. Last year, we still gave up big plays. But if you take a look at when I first got into coaching, when everybody was two backs, two tight ends, or one tight end, there weren't as many big plays because the offenses weren't as spread out, as skilled, and people weren't throwing the football. Everybody gives up big plays now because of those factors, So that when you talk about secondary, which was the first question, Mike, then we go to another question on it. The concern is a unit concern. The better pass rush you have, the less pressure it takes off, or it takes off pressure from the secondary. Am I making sense? You follow me? Yeah.
Looking back at last year, you didn't have a whole lot of sacks then, so how do you get more pressure back there?
No, but let me just say this to you. I knew some wise ass would ask that question. No, but let me just say this to you honestly. what's most important is not sacks. What's most important is getting off the field in third down situations. All right, so you don't like to brag about too much of this, but I'm just going to tell you, you take a look at the ACC stats, and you take a look at third downs, you're getting your opponent off the field, we were number one. We were number one in our conference, at least going into the final game. Well, it would have been in our conference stats. I think we're around 20th or so in the country. So, you know, that's what's most important. Not sacks, it's getting off the field in third down. And if you take a look at some of the throws that we had that allowed us to get off the field, balls batted down, incompletions, it was because of the rush. For instance, like in pro football and how we do it here with Bill Lazor, that ball is on the fifth step, that ball is going to be off. I mean, it's going to be off to Darius Jennings or Nicky Terrell or to a tight end. And versus the rush, the ball is going to be thrown before the versus a blitz. I mean, they have blitz reads, hut reads, and things of that nature. So the ball is going to get thrown. The important thing is making sure they're incompleted, intercepted, batted down, and getting off the field. And that's where we improved. In 2010, we were 11th out of 12th in the ACC getting off the field. This year we were first, and that's where the improvement was, and there was less pressure this year, but more coverage, and that's how we did it. And let me just say a question I know that's on your mind, Jerry, and the next question I knew you were going to ask, so I'll answer it for you. In terms of linebackers, how important is it? Getting Steve Greer back? Well, let me just say this to you. Steve Greer is our real kind of individual in the middle leader. He gets us lined up. He makes the calls. He makes the adjustments. You watch him out there, he'll be giving hand signals to our secondary that will help us, which was one of the questions. And we missed him badly at the end of the year. That being said, you got Roy Reynolds also in that linebacker group, who is skilled enough to be a coverage guy and really be able to play man-to-man outside in space. And he's also a guy that is tough and comes in and really is very strong. I was going to say violent, but I didn't want to because of all the media problems he had with this. But I didn't want to be classified as a guy with the New Orleans Saints, you know. But what I'm saying is he's very physical. How about that versus the run? So he's got all the great qualities. And the player that I thought did a great job for us filling in for Steve Greer last year, Henry Coley, he's going to be starting at the Sam linebacker position. And then we've got some real good depth in Dede Romero and Tucker Wendell and DJ Hill. So that's going to be a good group for us, I think, as well. But you know, when you have a guy, and this is a cliche, and I know that, but when you have a guy who's another coach on the field, it always going to help you get lined up to play coverage, to take advantage of where we want to rush, and to be able to call defenses when it's a hurry-up offense, and we're going to face some of those again this year. So it's going to be great. And for him to watch spring football, I think really helped him understand and develop, some even greater conceptual ideas of what we're trying to do.
How much did that take away from you guys in the bowl game when you wasn't able to fill that role, even though the other guys tried hard?
No, I know, and I didn't want to really answer it then, and you don't really want to answer it now, but I'll just tell you that whenever you remove somebody with the qualities of the game that I just mentioned, it's going to hurt you, and I think that's probably the best way to answer it. Henry was out for 6 weeks and just got back about 2 weeks before that, and I thought he did a great job for us in that bowl game. Don't forget, we also didn't have Chase Minifield, and we also didn't have Billy Schultz in that game as well. Tell you, Billy Schultz, our defensive ends, I knew you were going to ask this, Doug, so I'll save some time. And defensive ends, yes, we'll miss Cam Johnson. Cam was the player that I was just talking about in the Duke game that was on top of the quarterback, and he had another great pressure in that game, actually a sack. But you don't have an appreciation until you go back and you really watch and study the tape, how greatly Billy progressed in the plays that he made for us down the stretch when we really had to have it, Florida State. See, what you don't see, we all saw, and what we all remember, including myself, is that last drive of Florida State, both offensively, all right, and then defensively coming back by Florida State. But you don't remember play number 13 in the game, 2nd and 6 on the plus 12-yard line. They're going in for a touchdown, and they try to throw a tailback screen. Cam Johnson grabs him, and then Billy runs around the block, knocks the ball loose. Roy jumps on it. We recover the fumble. Huge play in the game. You don't want to be down 7-0 in the first drive at Florida State on Saturday night. And also Jake Snyder did a terrific job in progressing. 2 high-quality guys now, those guys. Brent Urban is somebody we're looking at to play both defensive end and also a little bit, on the inside with our inside techniques. Take some pressure off of Justin Renfro and Will Hill and try to get a rotation going in there also with Chris Brathwaite. So that, we feel good about our edges. We're going to miss Cam because he really gave us some great plays. Gutsy player, was hurt a lot during the season. Magnificent human being. But we had some guys progress to the point where I think that they'll really help us.
When you look back at the season last year and looking forward to the season, are there anything that at least that you'll even tell us that you're planning to do more of, whether it's being more aggressive, any differences in terms of the scheme, any kind of bits that you're looking to put in for this year?
Well, I think a lot of that depends upon the development of our secondary. If we are able to grasp concepts of either man-to-man zone pressures, then now I think that will allow us to dial up schemes that would give us an advantage to whatever the strengths of the offense are. Today what it's hard to do is say, well, we're going to be this. And, we're going to be pressure all the time. Well, you get up, you get with 4 wideouts or a team that throws the football, and they have, everybody knows what they're doing on offense. And it's difficult. You have to be able to adjust and improvise. And that's what you have to do. 20 years ago, there were teams playing defense that per game were giving up less than 200 yards a game, and that's hard to do now with the skill and the way that people are spreading you out and catching the ball in space and all. And when the more you spread out, then the more that you have to tip your hand sometimes as to what you're going to do. But what we have to do, I believe, honestly, is just grasp who we are, the concepts we're trying to teach, like we did last year, and like we struggled to do the year before. And then we have to try to match our scheme with the strength of offenses. Because we really didn't do anything different last year than we did the year before. And that's what we have to do, I think.
Coach, can you elaborate a little bit on Jake Snyder, just how far you've seen him come and how big he can be for you guys this year?
Well, it was a different position that we first put Jake into in 2010. He has learned to use his hands greatly. But if you watch him, he's really progressed in his pass rush. And the physicalness of which he plays on the tight end. It's not easy to play what we play. Shoulder pad to shoulder pad with the tight end. Takes leverage, hip snap, footwork, and real quick hands. And that sounds easy. and it's very, very difficult. And when you can master it, it helps. When you struggle with it, it really hurts you on the edge. And somebody mentioned that it was noticeable our edge defense was a lot better. A lot of it had to do with setting the edge in the secondary, Rod, McLeod, and our defensive ends. But he has progressed tremendously in the physicalness of which he plays the position, and also on pass rush. I mean, the guy is just a great leader. And you don't want to hear it, but you know what I'm going to say about him. You just pray that your daughter brings him home someday to meet the family, and that you would be proud to call him your son.
You seem really concerned about the types of people your daughter brings.
I really am. What are you, nuts? Obviously you don't have a daughter.
I have a 6-month-old twin girl.
Well, then let me tell you what. You better take some lessons from what I'm saying here. Yeah, that's right. Never mind the schemes. You better listen to those other things. Yeah. Let me tell you what. With 2 twin daughters, I feel your pain.
Did you know you picked out 400 guys that were suitable for it?
What's that?
Did you know that you picked out 400 guys that were suitable?
Hey, let me tell you what. You know, I shouldn't probably say this, but my daughter Megan was going to school at Richmond when I was the head coach there, and I threatened those guys after every game. After every single game, you know. Yeah. No, but I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you, since you asked, and we're going over, this is Hank's fault. We're off the subject. Okay. Let me just say this here. This is the truth. It was at Boston College, and there was a linebacker that I coached named Stephen Boyd. Man, what a football player this guy was. I loved this guy. I mean, he was hard, physical, good student, just a great, great guy. So one night, I'm in the office because I had moved to BC and my family stayed in Amherst, and my daughter went to school there as a freshman. When I went there, she came, and daughter Megan, and she said, and my wife called, she said, "Do you know where your daughter is right now?" And I of course not. During the season, I was breaking the tape from Saturday afternoon's game. It was a really good win. Just beat Rutgers, I think, and she's at a party with football players. So, well, how do you know that? She said, well, she just called me. It was about 10:30 at night. I said, well, who she's with? Who is she with? She's with a guy named Steve Boyd and Eddie Santabria and Brian Keys. I'm like, let me tell you this, Judy, just so you know. She is not only with 3 of the best young men on our football team. She is with 3 of the best young men that I know. So relax. But Sunday morning, I asked him what was going on.
You preference when you played. You preference when you played a few times. When you perspired a lot in a leather helmet, did it shrink?
Wow.
Did you say this conference has ended? Hey, thank you very much.